be ready to read Rich Scripture?
Well, she's got a few minutes because I've got a story to tell.
Oh. Well, but make sure she knows. And Leonard.
I do. I hear you, Faye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2011 Leonard and 2014 Rich and Allison, you know about. Okay. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Sue.
Well, Gary can go ahead.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to a very special reading of the whole series of Two Autumns, going back to the very beginning. Before we start, though, I want to announce for those who haven't heard that our good friend Vincent Trippi passed away this past Monday, August 17th. He was a founding member of our society. He was 79 years old. And so we want to dedicate this reading, not just to Vince, but to all the readers who have moved on or have passed on from this reading series. And these are who they were: Eugene Waldteufel, Paula Williams, Renge David Prevey, Vincent Trippi, K.F. Anderson, Donna Claire Gallagher, Tom Tico, Evelyn Herman, Lori Stolting, Laura Bell, Ayoko Tokutomi, Earl Johnson, and Jerry Ball. I hope I didn't miss anyone, but these are the ones I'm aware of. And we also want to dedicate the reading to what we're going through right now here in California, to all the forest fires, because some of us have had to flee our homes. And we also are concerned about our forests and woodlands. They're very important to us as nature writers. And, you know, our heart goes out to our beautiful countryside and all our poets that are having struggles in this time. So now what I want to do is I want to tell you about how did we get here? Why are we here to begin with on this day? This day would have been our 31st reading of Two Autumns. We had already selected the poets. They'd already submitted their poems. We've already edited the poems, done the production work, and the book is ready to go to the printer. But then the virus hit, COVID-19, and we decided for everyone's safety and well-being, we would postpone the reading till next year. Hopefully this time next year, we can all come back together and maybe meet in person and try this again. We don't know how it's going to go. We can't predict what will happen. Maybe we'll be back online in some form again. But for now, that's the tentative plan. So the officers felt that we still didn't want this time to go by. We'd already marked this day and time to have this Two Autumns reading. And we thought, well, what can we do in its place? So we came up with the idea of having a reading based on the anthology Birdsong, which I'll tell you more about in a minute. I need to tell you the backstory that leads up to that, but that's what we got here at this moment in time, and that's really what we're doing today. So I want to back up to the history just a little bit. So someone needs to mute. So in the 1980s,
Gary?
Yes.
Gary, could I interrupt for just a minute? I'm going to mute everybody.
Yeah.
And then, Gary, if you could then unmute yourself in just a moment.
Susan?
So I've unmuted. Looks like Bruce had a question.
George Swede's having a hard time getting audio. I suggested he try to chat with Susan.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent a note to him, like, did you check with the computer sound?
Or his keyboard sound. Shall I continue?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the mid-1980s, there was about 7 or 8 or 9 of us that used to meet in each other's kitchens and living rooms. We always met on a Sunday. It was a kind of quarterly. There was really we had no guidelines really. And we would just share a meal and we would just talk haiku. We would just talk what our interest in haiku was. And by the time we got to 1989, we became too many. There was probably at least 30 of us. And we ended up meeting at Jerry Kilbride's little studio apartment over on 920 Bush Street here in San Francisco. On that particular day, there was probably 30 people standing in this little studio apartment that had like a Murphy bed in the wall. That's how small this thing was. If it opened up, it takes up the apartment. Had a little kitchenette and a tiny bathroom. And all these 30 poets were trying to meet in this room. Whenever seating was taken up, everyone was sitting all over the floor and everyone was leaning against all the walls. And there was a little bit of chaos. We were having a good time, but we really couldn't visit the way we had planned to visit. So someone suggested we should become some kind of organization. Nobody knew what. And so then it was proposed we should have a steering committee to form a society or something. They would leave it to the committee to decide and come back to the people that were coming to the meetings and propose something. So 8 people volunteered, including myself. And we then a week later met in my studio at 320 Fell Street in San Francisco. That's where my photo studio was. And the 8 of us sat down and we decided, well, what do you want to do? Do you just want to have a timekeeper? Do you want to have official officers? What? Had a big debate, had a big discussion. In the end, everybody wanted to have an official society. They wanted officers, they wanted a journal, they wanted contests, they wanted a whole ball of wax. And they wanted me to be the first president. So I was honored. I said, okay, I'd never done anything like this before. It was all new to me. So then the following week or two, we took that presentation and we met at Katie Carriaga's house in Oakland. She had a small little house, and the poets that were currently meeting in the different places like Jerry's and my house and everywhere else showed up at Katie's. And we sat down and we said, okay, well, what did the committee decide to do, the steering committee? And the steering committee said to the members there, we want to be an official society and we want officers. And so they voted. They voted with the people in the room that were there because we considered that to be the membership at the time. And there were, the officers they chose was me as president, Gary Gay, vice president Carolyn Talmadge, secretary Paulo Williams, treasurer Vincent Trippi, and the newsletter co-editors was Vincent Trippi and Paulo Williams. They both were great fans of Emerson. And so they wanted to produce the first journal, or it was more newsletter-like than journal, but it was a journal. And that would be Woodnotes. And they took Woodnotes from a poem, or I guess it was field notes that Emerson had kept. And they have a poem in the first issue, which I won't read you right now, but and it was for a poem he wrote in 1840. And then we listed who all the official charter members would be, and these are the charter members. Not that you can really read them here with the officers at the bottom. If you had got a copy, it's page 3. These are very rare because the membership wasn't very large. I doubt there were even 50 copies made of this. I happen to have one, and I may have a second, I'm not sure. I'm very disorganized, so they're hard to find, but I thought you'd like to see what we did this from. So that's how we decided to found the society. And at the same meeting, looking back on the minutes on page 6, because we actually took minutes of some sort, we voted on becoming a society. We voted on the slate of officers. And then we tried to decide who were we and what was our name. And so we had 7 or 8 names that were proposed. And one of them was Haiku Poets of Northern California. And I believe it was Jane Reichhold that proposed that name. And so as we debated the name, that was the one that got the most interest. We voted on the names, and this was the name that won. And then later on, I think it's page 6, we had a little discussion on, well, you know, why were you a member? Well, what made you qualify to be a member? And at the time, we thought anyone in this room was a member. Anyone that we had a kind of a little mailing list of some sort, was on that list. Those would be considered charter members. So you didn't quite make it that day to that meeting. You didn't lose your founding membership in the society. So that was how we founded. That's how we found the name. That's how we decided to organize. And once that happened, it fell to me to kind of decide, how was this going to be framed and how it was going to function. And I had a rare and privileged opportunity to come up with some ideas to give us traditions. And I thought, well, it would be nice to maybe have some kind of reading series. I'd already been doing readings around the East Bay and San Francisco, so I had some experience putting together some readings. So I thought I could do this. I've done readings. I can do this. So I thought, well, let's have an anthology. Well, first I thought, let's have a reading series, and it would just be an ongoing reading series. Of course, at that time and place, I didn't know it was going to go 30 years. But then I said, well, how do I put who reads? How do we decide who reads? So I thought it'd be best to have 4 people. It seemed like a good number, and that's what I've been doing in these other readings. In the other readings, there would be 4 people, featured people, and then we have an open mic, and anyone could read. But I wanted this to be much more special. The 4 readers would have it to themselves. There would be no open reading. There would be no announcements. It would just purely be a celebration of our organization and of this, what would be a reading series. Once and the very first issue, which you might be interested in knowing, was how did we choose the 4 first readers? We drew them out of a hat. We said, whoever wants to read, put in your name, put in a hat. We literally pulled out 4 names, and these were the first 4 readers. This is the first 2 autumns, and it was Pat Donegan, Eugene Waldteufel, Michael Dillon Welsh, and Paulo Williams, and it was edited by John Thompson, and it was produced by Michael Dillon Welsh, and so that was not the complete beginning, because then once I'd put together how it was going to function and how we'd select the readers. Now, we didn't stay with that after the first time. After that, officers for every year afterwards chose who would be reading in the series. But of course, with input from the membership, if someone wanted to read, they had to let us know, and we'd add it to a list. And we'd debate a list of who was capable of reading. Did they have enough body of work to read? Whatever it was, we would work it out. Now, I haven't always been president. There's many years in between when I wasn't president. I'm back again, but so other officers in other periods of time selected other people to read. And so once I had the reading series kind of designed the way I thought it was going to function, I thought it'd be cool to have a book to go with it, right? So I thought it was a little bit more than I could handle at first, but I thought it would be so perfect to have something to take away from the reading and have something to echo the reading. And if you didn't make the reading, you at least have a sampling of these poets and the kind of work that they had. I don't know why I'm showing it to you. You probably have all, if you're here, you've probably been in a 2 autumns reading. So then I decided, well, what do we call this reading series? I didn't know what to call it. I thought it should have some kind of name. It could have just been HPNC Reading Series, I guess. So I started flipping through some anthologies. I looked at some Blythe, and I was flipping through Harold Henderson's introduction to haiku when I came across this poem by Busan. And I really liked it. It really moved me. It really had the feel of what this could be. For me going, for you staying, 2 autumns by Busan. And so that was the name I adopted for the reading series. That was the reason I chose that name. I like to echo the fact that, once you're going, you can take this away with you. You're taking some of the reading. What stays with you in your heart is having been there at the reading and heard the voices of these fine, beautiful poets. And there was a pairing going on as I was putting together. I was wanting to have 2 experienced poets, maybe paired with 2 poets that were up and coming and maybe never had public reading experience before. And I wanted to give our newer members a chance and opportunity to be paired with some more experienced, readers. And I also wanted to pair together both an editor and a producer, so one person wasn't doing all the work and they could be a team. So I started seeing all these pairings, the way I was doing the readers, the way I was doing the production, the way I was pairing both a reading and a book. The number 2 just kept coming up. So when I found this poem, 2 autumns, it just seemed, wow, this kind of destiny kind of meant to be this poem. And of course, years later, we find out that Busan didn't write this poem. It's an Issa poem. So I guess Harold Henderson, when he put his book together, must have made a mistake and attributing the poem to Busan, and really it's an Issa poem. For me, going, for you, staying, 2 autumns, Issa. That's who it should be. Okay, so now we're going to fast forward in time. So 24 years later, we were coming up on our 25th anniversary, and the officers were trying to decide what should we do? What can we do to celebrate the 25 years of 2 autumns? So we decided what we'd do. Well, first we thought we'd do an anthology. It seemed like a lot to put 25 years of all these books into one book. It would have been costly. So then they decided I should go back and edit from the very first one, just as you're going to see today, to the very last one. And I would just pick one poem from each poet from every anthology for every year. And when we completed that one, I chose a poem I found by Laurie Stolding called One Song. And I thought that was really kind of beautiful in a way, because aren't we all sort of the same flock, writing in the same one form? This is our one voice. This is our one song. Haiku is our one song. So I chose that for the title of that haiku series, which is really in a way what this reading today is going to be. It's now going to be one longer, one song. But realizing now 5 years later that the recent 5 years, maybe 6 years of 2 autumns wouldn't be included. So I went back and I edited the last 5 years of 2 autumns, plus the manuscript for the 4 readers that would be reading today, and included all of them. So now today in this presentation is our one long 30 years worth of 2 autumns. And so that's my long-winded story of telling you how we got here, why we're here, and what it's all about. And it's really all about all of you all. And I'm sure I missed something I wanted to tell you, but we'll pick it up as we go along. So I'm going to turn it over to Sue, and Sue will be our host. And we have 2 wonderful, beautiful poets, Michael Sheffield and Stephanie Baker. Stephanie is going to read for the female voices. Michael's going to read for the gentlemen. And we're going to just, for those that are missing, for those of you who are here and who can read your own poems, you're invited to read your poem in your place in the anthology series. So Sue, take it away.
Thank you, Gary. That was wonderful. And I noticed Michael put in the chat, it's actually Shiki rather than Isa, for the record.
Okay, my mistake, sorry.
So now we're going to just dive right in. And for the first year, that's the one anthology I don't have. So Faye is going to show that and read the, or if you just want to display it, I'll read who it was. That was named 2 Autumns. It was edited by John Thompson, produced by Michael Dillon Welch. And the 4 poets were Pat Donegan, Eugenie Waldteufel, Michael Dillon Welch, and Paul O. Williams. All drawn out of a hat. Unbelievable.
And I will just show the cover.
Do you want to say who did the production?
Michael Dillon Welch.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Summer twilight. A woman's song mingles with the bathwater. Summer twilight. A woman's song mingles with the bathwater. Pat Donegan. Ankle deep in creek water, young again. Ankle deep in creek water, young again. Eugenie Waldteufel.
Is it my turn? So very briefly, I just want to show you this. This is a picture from the very first 2 Autumns reading. Paul, me, Patricia Donegan, and Eugenie Waldteufel. Sorry if it's a little blurry, but this is what we get. This is from 31 years ago. And 2 of our readers there are no longer with us. I thought you'd like to see this. First flakes, the snow leopard pacing. First flakes, the snow leopard pacing.
By a small flower called end of spring, my grown daughter. By a small flower called end of spring, my grown daughter. Paul Williams.
1991, A Poppy Blooms. Edited by Patricia Donegan. Produced by Michael Dillon Welch. Poets Gary Gay, Renge David Priebe, Dave Suter, and Vincent Trippi.
Hiking into the clouds, the view within. Hiking into the clouds, the view within.
Campfire settles, a shower of sparks rising toward the Milky Way. Campfire log settles, a shower of sparks rising toward the Milky Way. Renge Priebe.
Summer gone, older now than my father. Summer gone, older now than my father. Dave Suter.
The shell I take, the shell it takes, ebb tide. The shell I take, the shell it takes, ebb tide. Vincent Trippi.
1992, Summer River. Edited by Tom Lynch. Produced by Michael Dillon Welch. Poets James Chessing, Kimberly Courtner, Ebba Story, and Kathy White.
Open boxcar doors. The evening sun slips into a swarm of gnats. Open boxcar doors. The evening sun slips into a swarm of gnats. James Chessing.
First shoots in my bulb garden, forgetting what I planted. First shoots in my bulb garden, forgetting what I planted. Kimberly Courtner.
Mama's finger, star by star, the Big Dipper. Mama's finger, star by star, the Big Dipper. Ebba Story. My first contraction as I cut the iris stem under cold water. My first contraction as I cut the iris stem under cold water. Kathy White.
1993, Morning Snow. Edited by Patricia Neubauer. Produced by Michael Dillon Welch. Poets K.F. Anderson, Christopher Harold, Tom Lynch, and Patricia Mockmiller.
Two matronly women on a private road at dusk. Skipping. Two matronly women on a private road at dusk. Skipping. K.F. Anderson.
Walking the dirt road, she in her rut, I in mine. Walking the dirt road, She in her rut, I in mine. Christopher Harold.
The dead thrush weighs almost nothing. The dead thrush weighs almost nothing. Tom Lynch.
Shaking out the sand, 3 hold on to the blanket. The end of summer. Shaking out the sand, 3 hold on to the blanket. The end of summer. Patricia Mockmiller.
(1994), A White Chrysanthemum. I'm going to hold that a little bit closer so you can see. Edited by Paul O. Williams. Produced by Michael Dillon Welch. Poets Alex Benedict, Jerry Kilbride, Carolyn Talmadge, and Kenneth Tanemura. Alex Benedict, are you unmuted?
Under the ginkgo, a litter of yellow fans blown by the wind. Under the ginkgo, a litter of yellow fans blown by the wind. Alex Benedict.
Cloudberries, tasting the word. Cloudberries, tasting the word. Jerry Kilbride.
Full moon, the sound of apples dropping on the ground. Full moon, the sound of apples dropping on the ground. Carolyn Talmadge.
Winter night, the cat sitting in a drawer filled with letters. Winter night, the cat sitting in a drawer filled with letters. Kenneth Tanemura.
1995, Paper Lantern. Edited by Eva Story, produced by Patrick Gallagher. Poets Donna Claire Gallagher, Lynn Leach, Zane Parks, and Tom Tico.
Practicing Tai Chi on the porch, knowing which boards shift. Practicing Tai Chi on the porch, knowing which boards shift. Donna Claire Gallagher. Dried flower husk into my palm, a trickle of seeds. Dried flower husk into my palm, a trickle of seeds. Lynn Leach.
Stone Mountain, the granite faces of defeated generals. Stone Mountain, the granite faces of defeated generals. Zane Parks.
From the 2 pennies my sons threw in the wishing pool, rings that intersect. From the 2 pennies my sons threw in the wishing pool, rings that intersect. Tom Tico.
I have to just say that that was Nathaniel Tico, Tom Tico's son, in case anybody didn't know. 1996, A Path to the Sea, edited by Christopher Harold, produced by Patrick Gallagher. Poets Dan Brady, Helen K. Davey, Patrick Gallagher, and Evelyn Herman.
Michael?
Broken wagon wheel. Around the iron wheel, trace of a snail. Broken wagon wheel. Around the iron wheel, trace of a snail. Dan Brady.
On the path, only one of us touched by a falling leaf. On the path, only one of us touched by a falling leaf. Helen K. Davey.
Patrick, are you unmuted?
Sloshing through the creek, too tired for stepping stones. Sloshing through the creek, too tired for stepping stones. Pat Gallagher.
Garden pond, a raccoon drinking moonshine. Garden pond, a raccoon drinking moonshine. Evelyn Herman.
Susan, mute.
Sorry. 1997, Beneath Cherry Blossoms. Edited by K.F. Anderson. Produced by Pat Gallagher. Poets Faye Aoyagi, Alice Benedict, David Rice, and Lori W. Stolting.
I kick a sandal high, the rainbow over thatched roofs. I kick a sandal high, the rainbow over thatched roofs. Faye Aoyagi.
Crane flies dancing up the window, one inside, one out. Crane flies dancing up the window, one inside, one out. Alice Benedict.
Moonlight on the rug. Hesitating, I step into it. Moonlight on the rug. Hesitating, I step into it. David Rice.
Blanket across us, watching the earth's shadow cover the moon. Blanket across us, watching the earth's shadow cover the moon. Lori W. Stolting.
1998, First Dream. Edited by Patrick Gallagher and produced by Patrick Gallagher. Poets Anne Homan, Jeffrey S. McKay, Mariana Monaco, and Paul Watsky.
Diablo's two peaks, lightly capped with white. But the snows of childhood. Diablo's two peaks, lightly capped with white. But the snows of childhood. Anne Homan.
Desert sunset, The dog howls with the coyotes, returns to his bark. Desert sunset. The dog howls with the coyotes, returns to his bark. Jeffrey S. McKay.
Open prairie. A small trail follows me through wild grasses. Open prairie. A small trail follows me through wild grasses. Mariana Monaco.
The rustle and thump of old trees shedding apples, sunny afternoon. The rustle and thump of old trees shedding apples, sunny afternoon. Paul Watson.
1999, The Sound of the Bell. Edited by Mariana Monaco. Produced by Michael Dillon Welch. Poets June Hopperheimus, John Leonard, Carolyn Roehrig, and John Thompson.
Summer rainstorm. In a puddle, sparrows quarrel. Summer rainstorm. In a puddle, sparrows quarrel. June Hopperheimus.
Missing this morning, the cat's wake-up call outside my door. Missing this morning, the cat's wake-up call outside my door. John Leonard.
Spring cleaning. A cobweb sticking to the cat's whiskers. Spring cleaning. A cobweb sticking to a cat's whiskers. Carolyn Roehrig.
Lichen grow in the crevice of her smile, the old stone goddess. Lichen grow in the crevice of her smile, the old stone goddess. John Thompson.
(2000) Fallen Leaves. Edited by John Leonard. Produced by Carolyn Hall. Poets Roger Abe, Laura Bell, Rich Krivcher, and Eugenie Waldteufel.
Over,
Sorry.
sorry, over spring mountains, the sea fog drapes itself, the kestrel hovers. Over spring mountains, the sea fog drapes itself, the kestrel hovers. Roger Abe.
Divorce court. His starched shirt. The print of her iron. Divorce court. His starched shirt. The print of her iron. Laura Bell.
Spring frost. I walk the muddy fields in my father's footsteps. Spring frost. I walk the muddy fields in my father's footsteps. Rich Krivcher.
Pressed roses, remembering his voice all through the poems. Pressed roses, remembering his voice all through the poems. Eugenie Waldteufel.
(2001) Floating Dreams. Edited by Gary Gay. Produced by Karina Young. Poets Carolyn Hall, Kyoko Tokutomi, Paul O. Williams, and Karina Young.
Seafaring story. The book rises and falls on his chest. Seafaring story. The book rises and falls on his chest. Carolyn Hall.
White camellia. My father loved this garden, now so forlorn. White camellia. My father loved this garden, now so forlorn. Yoku Takatomi.
For dandelions, so easy to get old and gray-headed. For dandelions, so easy to get old and gray-headed. Paul O. Williams.
Beethoven's Sixth, the rain outside so soft. Beethoven's Sixth, the rain outside so soft. Karina M. Young.
Mm. 2002, Still Singing, edited by Rich Krivcher, produced by Lori and Eric Stolting. Poets K.F. Anderson, Paul M., Earl Johnson, and Michael McClintock.
Pine-needled path, slowly I step out of my mind. Pine-needled path, slowly I step out of my mind. K.F. Anderson.
A small bowl of imported oranges, snow outside. A small bowl of imported oranges, snow outside. Paul M.
Pacifist praying, forgive us our trespasses before trespassing. Pacifist praying, forgive us our trespasses before trespassing. Earl Johnson.
That kid who stole my marbles, buried today. That kid who stole my marbles, buried today. Michael McClintock.
(2003), 100 Gourds, edited by Carolyn Hall, produced by Karina M. Young. Poets Ross Figgins, Patricia J. Mockmiller, W. F. Owen, and Ebba Story.
Solar eclipse. Without introduction, strangers speak. Solar eclipse. Without introduction, the strangers speak. Ross Figgins.
The puppet's master, hidden in the shifting light. Old year turns to new. The puppet's master, hidden in the shifting light. Old year turns to new. Patricia J. Mockmiller.
Another argument unfolds the futon. Another argument unfolds the futon. W. F. Owen.
Longing to touch the harvest moon, I paint my nails. Longing to touch the harvest moon, I paint my nails. Ebba Story.
(2004), The Day of Strawberries, edited by Paul O. Williams, produced by Karina M. Young. Poets, Jerry Kilbride, Gary Gay, D. Claire Gallagher, and Yvonne Caballona.
Geese flying north. My nephew's voice is changing. Geese flying north. My nephew's voice is changing. Jerry Kilbride.
Snowflakes fall into the darkness of the tuba. Snowflakes fall into the darkness of the tuba. Gary Gay.
Clear autumn sky. She wedges her hiking boot into the mountain. Clear autumn sky. She wedges her hiking boot into the mountain. D. Claire Gallagher.
Tree frogs. He holds the phone to them so I can hear. Tree frogs. He holds the phone to them so I can hear. Yvonne Caballona.
"2005, If I Met Basho, edited by W.F. Owen, produced by Lane Parker. Poets, Patrick Gallagher, Pamela Miller-Ness, Lori W. Stolting, and Karma Tenzing Wenchuk.
Gettysburg Shop, Battleground Bullets, 50 cents apiece. Gettysburg Shop, Battleground Bullets, 50 cents apiece. Patrick Gallagher.
After all these years, ankle deep in the other ocean. After all these years, ankle deep in the other ocean. Pamela Miller-Ness.
Family reunion. She brings stuff up from the cellar. Family reunion. She brings stuff up from the cellar. Lori W. Stolting. March winds. A butterfly and I struggle on. March winds. A butterfly and I struggle on. Karma Tenzing Wangchuk.
"2006, Still Speaking of Wind, edited by Paul Miller, produced by Karina M. Young. Poets, Stanford M. Forrester, Susan Antolin, Evelyn H. Herman, and John Thompson.
Temple ruins, pieces of a Buddha still praying. Temple ruins, pieces of a Buddha still praying. Stanford M. Forrester.
On our way to march for peace, our kids bickering. On our way to march for peace, our kids bickering. Susan Antolin.
Setting sun. The mountain's wrinkles deepen. Setting sun. The mountain's wrinkles deepen. Evelyn H. Herman.
Breaking through the earth with all the fury of birth, bean sprouts. Breaking through the earth with all the fury of birth, bean sprouts. John Thompson.
(2007), Basho Whispering, edited by Patricia J. Mockmiller, produced by Karina Young, poets Jerry Ball, Mark Hollingsworth, Laura Bell, Allison Wolpert.
Somewhere in the song of the mockingbird is the song of the mockingbird. Somewhere in the song of the mockingbird is the song of the mockingbird. Jerry Ball.
Raking leaves. The color where his pocket used to be. Raking leaves. The color where his pocket used to be. Mark Hollingsworth.
2-year-old hands me a stem without the flower. 2-year-old hands me a stem without the flower. Laura Bell. Banana leaf breeze, Basho whispering again in my ear. Banana leaf breeze, Basho whispering again in my ear. Allison Wolpert.
(2008), Moonlight, Changing Direction, edited and produced by David Grayson. Poets Faye Aoyagi, Christopher Harold, John Stevenson, and Billy Wilson.
Through a keyhole, I watched the summer of my childhood. Through a keyhole, I watched the summer of my childhood. Faye Aoyagi.
Early twilight. The snow enters the barn on the backs of cows. Early twilight. Snow enters the barn on the backs of cows. Christopher Harold.
My hands at rest in the dishwater. First hummingbird. My hands at rest in the dishwater. First hummingbird. John Stevenson.
Fruit stand apples. The rich smell of horses on my hands. Fruit stand apples. The rich smell of horses on my hands. Billy Wilson.
(2009), My Neighbor, edited by Paul Miller, produced by Linda Papanikolaou. Poets Gary Gay, David Grayson, Carolyn Hall, and Michael Dillon Welch.
River baptism. For those of us not sure, the rain starts. River baptism. For those of us not sure, the rain starts. Gary Gay.
Street corner memorial. My 4-year-old asks for the balloon. Street corner memorial. My 4-year-old asks for the balloon. David Grayson.
Autumn dusk, a word that will do for the one I can't find. Autumn dusk, a word that will do for the one I can't find. Carolyn Hall.
Spring sun. At the top of the roller coaster, she says yes. True story. Spring sun. At the top of the roller coaster, she says yes. Michael Dillon Welch.
(2010) Lighting a Candle. Edited by Michael Dillon Welch. Produced by Patrick Gallagher. Poets Roberta Beery, Deborah P. Kaloji, Victor Ortiz, and Ebba Story.
Slave cemetery, a marker for every plant. Slave cemetery, a marker for every plant. Roberta Berry.
Rust in the cedars. The quiet interrupted by heron cry. Rust in the cedars. The quiet interrupted by heron cry. Deborah P. Kaloji.
Summer stars, we pick out our house. Summer stars, we pick out our house. Victor Ortiz.
Morning coffee. I give the snow globe an extra shake. Morning coffee. I give the snow globe an extra shake. Ebba Story.
(2011) Light from the Other World. Edited by Patrick Gallagher. Produced by Linda Papanikolaou. Poets Sherry Hunter Day, Jim Cation, Paul M., and Leonard D. Moore.
Sharing my plan to travel the world. Dandelion. Sharing my plan to travel the world. Dandelion. Sherry Hunter Day.
Putting on the glasses to write in the dark obsession. Putting on the glasses to write in the dark obsession. Jim Cation.
Winter plum branches, a comet's only visit during my lifetime. Winter plum branches, a comet's only visit during my lifetime. Paul M.
Eyes closed while listening to her poem, The Summer Wind. Eyes closed while listening to her poem, The Summer Wind. Leonard D. Moore.
(2012) Half the Moon, Half of Me. Edited by Susan Diridoni. Produced by Peter Pendergrass and Susan Diridoni. Poets Bruce H. Feingold, Michael McClintock, Naya, and Renee Owen.
Moonless night, my reclusive neighbor points out Jupiter. Moonless night, my reclusive neighbor points out Jupiter. Bruce H. Feingold.
Mountain lake, between two Milky Ways, The creaking boat. Mountain lake. Between two Milky Ways, the creaking boat. Michael McClintock.
Leaving the cabin for the last time. Pine dust on my shoes. Leaving the cabin for the last time. Pine dust on my shoes. Naya.
This one life, I move the sparrow to higher ground. This one life, I move the sparrow to higher ground. Renee Owen.
The Color of Water. Edited and produced by Carolyn Hull. Poets Gregory Longnecker, Eve Lookring, Carolyn Rohrig, and C. Rosenau.
Veterans Day. Accepting some of my wounds were self-inflicted. Veterans Day. Accepting some of my wounds were self-inflicted.
Words. Still pink, close to the bone. Words. Still pink, close to the bone. Ava Lookring.
Beach house, unlocking the gate to the ocean. Beach house, unlocking the gate to the ocean. Carolyn Rohrig.
Knowing the tides change by its sound. Middle age. Knowing the tides change by its sound. Middle age. C. Rosenau.
The Half-Finished Bridge. Edited and produced by David Grayson. Poets Joseph Rebello, Rich Krifcher, Tanya McDonald, and Linda Papanicolaou.
Liberty Port. The pitch and roll of the sidewalk. Liberty Port. The pitch and roll of the sidewalk. Joseph Robello.
Crates on a flatbed truck. The passing scent of apple. Crates on a flatbed truck. The passing scent of apple. Rich Krifcher.
Nature talk. She erases native peoples from the chalkboard. Nature talk. She erases native peoples from the chalkboard. Tanya McDonald.
The thickness of the glass between us. Purple striped jelly. The thickness of the glass between us. Purple striped jelly. Linda Papanicolaou.
But for Their Voices. Edited by Carolyn Hall, produced by Linda Papanicolaou. Poets Chuck Brickley, Beverly Acuff Momoy, Kath Abella Wilson, and Jay Zimmerman.
Earthshine.
Her voice breaks into a whisper. Earthshine. Her voice breaks into a whisper. Chuck Brickley.
Free fall between dreams, lost sister. Free fall between dreams, lost sister. Beverly Acuff Mamoy.
Just a little ahead of my shadow, autumn loneliness. Just a little ahead of my shadow, autumn loneliness. Cathabella Wilson.
Rabbits at dusk, as if foxes did not also love twilight. Rabbits at dusk, as if foxes did not also love twilight. Jay Zimmerman.
(2016) Scent of the Past, Imperfect. Edited by Renee Owen. Produced by Renee Owen and Annie Damberg. Poets Michelle Root Bernstein, Robert Gilliland, June Hopper Hymas, and Michael Sheffield.
My dream voyage in a walnut shell boat. My dream voyage in a walnut shell boat. Michelle Root Bernstein.
Snow wind, wriggling the tea bag until it tears. Snow wind, wriggling the tea bag until it tears. Robert Gilliland.
Folding, unfolding, heedless of its beauty, pipevine swallowtail. Folding, unfolding, heedless of its beauty, pipevine swallowtail. June Hopper Hymas.
Cracked tea bowl, the stirring of antiquity in my bones. Cracked tea bowl, the stirring of antiquity in my bones. Michael Sheffield.
(2017) Butterflight. Edited by Patricia J. Mockmiller. Produced by Linda Papanicolaou. Poets William Hart, George Swede, Angela Terry, and Karina M. Young.
Each nail grieves in its own voice, leaving the wood. Each nail grieves in its own voice, leaving the wood. William Hart.
Ballet class. The picture windows swaying willow. Ballet class. The picture windows swaying willow. George Swede.
Cowbells floating over the breeze, wild oregano. Cowbells floating over the breeze, wild oregano. Angela Terry.
Dark clouds over the field, unwanted pumpkins. Dark clouds over the field, unwanted pumpkins. Karina M. Young.
2018, Open Iris, edited by Chuck Brickley, produced by Karina M. Young. Poets Alan Burns, Johnny Johnson Haffernick, Bill Kenny, and Sharon Preddy.
Source of the Creek, a kinglet's breeding song. Source of the Creek, a kinglet's breeding song. Alan Burns.
A waterfall at the end of the trail, wild irises. A waterfall at the end of the trail, wild irises. Johnny Johnson Haffernick.
There is a typo in the text as I'm looking at it, so don't be confused if what I say doesn't match what you're looking at. Winter night, the slow circling of the bar rag. Winter night, the slow circling of the bar rag. Bill Kenny.
News of refugees. The pieces of sea glass I decide to keep. News of refugees. The pieces of sea glass I decide to keep. Sharon Preddy.
"2019, Ferry Crossing, edited by Patricia J. Mockmiller, produced by Linda Papanicolaou. Poets Terry Ann Carter, Gary Gay, Jessica Malone Latham, and Paul M.
Ferry Crossing. She plays her cello for the gulls. Ferry Crossing. She plays her cello for the gulls. Terry Ann Carter.
Beach walk. A stray dog brings me a stick. Beach walk. A stray dog brings me a stick. Gary Gay.
Spring buds. Mom stops mid-story to sing. Spring buds. Mom stops mid-story to sing. Jessica Malone Latham.
Flower show. A bee selects third prize. Flower show. A bee selects third prize. Paul M.
And for what would have been 2020, but will now be 2021, the chapbook has not yet been printed, but it has been done as far as poem selection and everything. It will be called Filling in the Sky, edited by Sharon Preddy. The poets are David LeCount, Patricia Mockmiller, Crystal Simone Smith, and John Stevenson.
An ancient stone, I touch it to remember a million years ago. An ancient stone, I touch it to remember a million years ago. David LeCount.
Passing year. The man who usually greets me, not there. Passing year. The man who usually greets me, not there. Patricia J. Mockmiller.
Car ferry ride, weighing my life choices. Car ferry ride, weighing my life choices. Crystal Simone Smith.
Last piece of the jigsaw puzzle, filling in the sky. Last piece of the jigsaw puzzle, filling in the sky. John Stevenson.
Wonderful.
So may I add one thing?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say that for the 2013 anthology, The Color of Water, that was designed by Sherry Hunter Day.
I was just going to say that. I was alerted that I made that mistake. One other quick thing, there was a little trouble hearing Roberta's poem. I heard it fine, but some didn't. If Roberta's still here, if she would mind reading hers again.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can people hear me? Okay. Slave cemetery, a marker for every plant. Slave cemetery, a marker for every plant. Roberta Berry.
Thank you.
Put a thumbs up if it was, if you could hear me.
Yes. Excellent. So now it's a free-for-all. You can unmute, you can chat, whatever.
So I'd like to add two things here.
Okay.
This reading series also is our press name, Two Autumns Press. And also I want to point out that Birdsong was submitted to HSA Book Awards, and we got first place in the anthology category. So we got a little award for our anthology book. That's kind of cool.
One song,
yeah,
rather than Birdsong.
I'm sorry, one song.
One song, yes. With beautiful photographs inside. And an interview with Gary at the end that's really very interesting.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a free-for-all. Did you enjoy the reading?
Yes.
Yes. And it went surprisingly smoothly. So thank you, everyone. And thank you for readers and everyone. This is so good.
It was a very beautiful idea that came off exceedingly well.
I finally found my voice too.
Oh, George, you want to read yours?
Where are you, George? Oh, would you read yours?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ballet class. The picture windows swaying willow. Ballet class. The picture windows swaying willow. George Sweet.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to point out if I met Basho also won the first prize anthology HSA contest.
Were there others?
I just wanted to say thank you to Gary and Sue and Faye for putting this on, and to Michael and Stephanie for hearing your beautiful voices. And it's such an incredible treat to see all of our haiku friends from not only all around the state and the country, but all over the world. It's just very sweet. And I'm here in Sebastopol in smoky and fiery Sonoma County, and I have been stressed out of my mind, and I feel just like I've been taking a spiritual bath from listening to all of your haiku. I also wanted to thank Crystal Simone Smith of Backbone Press, who recently produced a book for Sue and I. We just got it in the mail. And This One Life, the poem I read today, is the title of my book. And if any of you all want to order books from Backbones Press and Crystal Simone Smith, Susan and I and Crystal would appreciate it. But thank you all. Blessings. Stay safe.
Yeah, I certainly agree also with the thanks to the organizers and Faye and Gary and, well, everybody. Sorry, I'm not upon all the names, but it's really, really great to see everybody. And you know, and when I was thinking about this, I was just thinking about the history of or our involvement in the history and all the other people. So it was so nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this was a wonderful, wonderful treat. It was like a solace in the middle of darkness or something. Very, very nice. I also noticed that Joseph Ribello is here, but he didn't read his haiku, so I don't know if he had sound problems or something.
No, that's just because Michael paid off the director, I'm sure. No, I was here the whole time. It was fun.
Oh, Joseph, do you want to read yours?
Nah,
Please
he
do.
did a great job.
Please do.
Read it, Joseph.
I just want to see my friends. Keep scanning.
Joseph, we want to hear you read.
Exactly.
Liberty Port, the pitch and roll of the sidewalk. Liberty Port, the pitch and roll of the sidewalk.
Thanks,
That's
Joseph.
You're welcome. Good to see you. I don't know what happened. I was just, you know, following along.
If you pause too long, somebody steps in and reads for you.
I could be. 'Cause I told the cats to wake me up, but they didn't do it. I was paying close attention, I promise.
Well, I think this is sort of
this was great.
This is sort of a historical reading when you think about it. You know, 30 years worth of poets, and you guys are all so very successful in your own right. You know, you've written all these different books and you've been part of these different societies. Some of you are leaders of other societies and stepped in and been leaders of this society. So it's really wonderful to see all this brilliance and all this talent in one long reading series, because we might not see this again, not for a long time anyway. So this is really special.
As a new member, I would like to thank everybody. This was most enjoyable.
Oh, good.
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you all hear me?
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I'm so glad to see that all the old timers look as old as I do.
I saw Anita.
Anita.
Hi, Anita.
Hey, Anita.
Hi, Anita.
I also wanted to thank Sue for going to the trouble of putting together all the books to show us. It was absolutely beautiful to see all of them, and I want to thank all of the editors that produced those books and all the people that, well, the editors and the producers, Karina, you being one among many. So thank you, thank you.
And also the people who did the cover art. There's some really beautiful covers out there.
And we're not done. We're still going to keep producing 2 autumns. So hopefully we'll just keep going.
Yeah. Yes.
I felt that I didn't want it to end. So that goes on. 2 autumns, just keeping going.
Did you hear we were going to start over again?
Someone made a mistake in the beginning. We got to repeat it.
I wanted to hear them all again, and I love the poems. And I think Gary did a great job of poems, and also that all of you write beautiful poems. And they were so moving. I wish I could keep them in front of me all the time.
Well, now you all have
And I
a lot
want
to pick
all
out.
the books. I want all the books too.
Well, if I can figure out the technology, I will post the video. It may take me a little bit because it's going to be a long one, but I will try to get it onto YouTube and then a link onto the website. That's my goal.
Okay.
Thank you so
I'd like
much
to,
for organizing it. Yeah.
I'd like to say something to, in honor of Gary. I think other people have already thanked him, but something I'd like to say is to thank him for having the vision for creating something that could last this long. And the fact that it has lasted long, I think, says a lot about how valuable it is each year. And something you forgot to mention, Gary, at least I remember this, is that the original plan was that you wanted to have it twice a year.
Yeah,
Remember that?
I was actually planning on saying that when I was listing all my twos. That was one of my many twos, but I realized how overwhelming it would be to do two autumns a year.
I don't know yet.
Right away, I dropped it. Yeah, you're right, Michael. I forgot to say that.
But something about that, though, is that the first reading was in the fall of 1990, and we had the first Haiku North America conference in 1991, and I think we were so busy working on that having the two autumns reading in the spring of 1991 was too much. And so maybe that was a good thing. And I think that's one of the nice things about Two Autumns is that it's an annual event, and it's really the showcase event for HPNC. And even though I'm far away, I'm always interested in the reading and jealous of the reading, and I wish I could come every year. And I'm glad to be able to come by Zoom this year. So here's a nice benefit of our virus situation. Thank you again, Gary.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay.
Well, it couldn't happen without all of you writing great poetry.
You're here.
You know, when I started out looking to write poetry, I started writing about the middle end of the 1970s. And I was just searching for someone else who knew what haiku was, so I could just sit down and have a conversation of, well, what is this, and what do you think it is, and does it have to be 5/7/5, and what's a senru, and who are these Japanese poets? And the beauty was, as it went along, and I found one poet at a time, until there was 6 or 7 of us, until there were 30 of us, until there was 100 of us. It was, you know, I really just thought I was kind of pursuing my interest in a little poetic form. And I didn't realize the family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm really touched by all the friendships that I've made.
Mm-hmm.
It is a wonderful.
Anita and I'd like to say goodbye to you all. We thoroughly enjoyed everything, and let's hope we can do it again sometime.
Yes.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I just wanted to thank everybody. I'm fairly new. A lot of you have never even seen me because I live in Santa Cruz. And my name is Deanna. I'm now locked in my house, which makes it hard for the ginkgo walk idea. But we're still hanging in there, and this was deeply nourishing. And thank you so much for doing it, all of you. Yes. Beautiful poems. Thank you.
I'm glad you could be here.
I want to say thank you to Gary, of course, and Sue. Thank you so much for just orchestrating all of this, and it really was very smooth. Yeah, it came off beautifully, And I loved seeing all of the book covers again, and what a testimonial of Two Autumns, and 30 years of just magnificent work. And what an honor to have any part of this with so many talented writers and artists. And thank you for helping make this such a smooth experience, Sue. It was really nourishing, and it's helpful to feel connected again with haiku, because it hasn't been easy over the last several months. So this is one of the many things I'm very thankful for, in addition to my Yuki Teike haiku classes and meetings, and it's just great to connect with all of you.
Thank you. Well, it's new for all of us, right? None of us, I had never done a video meeting of any kind before this happened. But I have to say, it's the bright spot in this whole mess of the past so many months, that being able to connect with everybody, especially all these people from all over, this is wonderful.
Yes, that's right.
I think it's amazing.
So I really hope we'll continue some of this now that we know how to do it.
Sort of.
Sort of.
I think you're getting better by the meeting.
Yeah, I think so.
Practice.
We learned something, and we're building on our knowledge and getting smoother.
I must say, we're teaching by Zoom, so there have been days that I have been on for almost 5 hours at a clip, and I still make lots of mistakes, but it's not my favorite way of teaching, but I think it's a lifesaver in quarantine.
Yeah.
So maybe with Zoom we could have the Two Autumns readings twice that Gary wanted originally. have a real life one at Fort Mason, and then have a slightly different one a little later via Zoom.
Well,
I love it.
Maybe turn Zoom on while we're having the reading itself, maybe.
No.
Could do that.
Well, the other thing is we are recording, and I'm hoping that this will be sort of a record. This is part of HPNC archival history now, and people will be able to go back and see what the poets look like and sound like, and hear all those poems again. So I think that'll be really nice.
Yeah, there's nothing like the voice of a poet, and it's also kind of nice to have the written poem in the book, because you can revisit that reading later,
Yeah.
It makes me think it'd be great to have a group shot for every Two Autumns. I know we haven't done it, but we ought to start.
Yeah, we've done it sometimes. I mean, there are pictures out there. I think we've done it most times, but we've missed a few, I'm sure. So it was never part of the plan, which unfortunate. As a photographer, I should have thought of it. Whatever.
Anybody know who Bagels is? There was somebody whose screen displayed Bagels as their name.
It's Beagle Stevenson.
Who is it?
Beigel. But I used Bagels when I got downloaded Zoom, and it always shows up as Bagels.
Well, thank you for clearing that up.
You can change it if you like.
I have enough trouble just getting 10 minutes to get on tonight, so no way.
Wow. Well, you're all very amazing people.
Well, I would like to express my thanks to Gary and Sue and Faye and everybody who organized this. It really was this very special event. It feels so good to be with the community of poets. It's a great community, and your work, I really enjoyed your work, and seeing the books that was just wonderful, and a number of them won prizes also.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't research which ones won what. That would have been a nice addition had we known that. And looking back, I guess we should have also credited the cover art to all the artists that did them. Hindsight's 50-50 or 20-20 or whatever number it is, and we just overlooked it, in our planning, I guess.
Well, I think David Grayson edited, I forget which one David won a Touchstone short list. Patricia's just won a short list. And I think one song won a Touchstone award as well. I may have missed some, but I think those three for sure won Touchstone awards.
That was my photograph on David's anthology.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So thank you for today.
Yeah, and also I just want to say great thank you to Michael and Stephanie, and especially in the last part when Stephanie got something on the slide or whatever when she disappeared. Michael just to take over so smoothly, and as an interpreter who's trying to do the Zoom simultaneous interpretation, handover is the most difficult part, and I was like, wow, nobody noticed it. It was like they planned already, so I just admire so deeply.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware they did that. Actually, I was saying that one was going to read women and one was going to read men, and then they didn't do that, and I thought, oh, they must have changed their mind and nobody told me. So, I don't know what happened, but they shifted around a little bit and it all worked out well. So
worked out.
Yeah, I want to echo, great job. Such a great job, Stephanie and Michael. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, we did rehearse this a little bit, so we knew there'd be problems and we tried to anticipate what they would be, and we decided whatever the problem was, we would just go on. So
Yeah, but there is almost no problem. So
no, it went pretty well.
Yeah.
Other than some of my mistakes historically, but we can fix that later. Nothing like rewriting history, right?
Gary, you want to remind people? I think we have September 13th. Philip Kennedy is doing a workshop. Isn't it September 13th?
I would remind people, but I guess I wasn't aware of it.
I think so. Am I right, Susan?
That sounds right. It's up on the website,
Okay.
and reminders will go out. But that's sort of an added bonus. That's the thing we've decided is we've got our quarterly meetings, and now we're adding in, this is extra. If you would like a little more haiku in your life, come to a workshop. So Philip Kennedy will be Sunday, September 13th at 1 o'clock.
Also, I hope I don't want to embarrass Sue, but Sue and Faye and Gary and Michael Dillon Welch, I may be missing, we're all recognized in the Haikupedia through the Touchstone or the Haiku Foundation. And they talked about the contribution of the HPNNC, and there were nice little biographies in each one of them.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did I? I didn't write my bio, I think.
Stella organized, Stella Pierdes from Germany is the one who's organized it, and she's got bios up for all four of you, and I may be missing somebody. Oh, Chuck Brickley too. Chuck is there.
Faye, I think it was associated with that article on Renge.
Oh, yeah. I wrote that one. Right. Yeah, because actually, Sherry wrote for me, and I refused some of the part because, he wants to show everything, where I was born, my birth date. And I said, no, my birthday, website.
And I think there's an article by Gary on Renge, I believe, or is that by you, Faye?
No, it's a Michael wrote.
I think Michael.
Yeah, Michael wrote.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And
I also-
HSA now has a Renge contest too, I believe, right? Yeah, it just finished. So it's a Gary Gay Renge contest.
Yeah. Well, actually, the 2 autumns that I did with Victor and Roberta and Eva, we did Renge at that meeting. We Michael, I think, assigned us, to write with 2 other of the readers, and we read Renge. It was sort of a surprise, I remember. Is that how it went, Michael?
Yeah, I thought.
Ah,
Yeah,
I
I thought it would
remember
be a
that.
fun idea to have a bonus. So I encourage each of the 4 readers to write in different pairs and Renge component to that year's reading. There's also a trifold of all the Renge that were produced.
Yes.
I also just wanted to briefly note for any of you that are interested in art, Cheryl File, who's one of our HPNC members who was not able to be here today, and I both have art that contains our haiku that is going to be part of a book art exhibit at Gallery Route 1 in Point Reyes, and you don't have to drive out there because it's going to be online, or you can attend as well. Live, and the opening reception is on Saturday, September 9th at 3 o'clock. So invite any of you that want to be there for that or check it out later on your own.
Thanks.
I'd like to just say what a pleasure it was to see all of you together and to hear all of your voices. And to thank Sue in particular for really organizing us, Faye and Gary and Bruce and everybody on the executive committee, had some part in putting it together, but Sue really deserves the kudos for making this all such a special occasion. So thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah, whoever can run the technology is the backbone of the society.
The other thing I'd like to say is it's so nice for Sue to send out the announcement again so that it's at the top of your emails and you don't have to go searching down. So I have to remember to do that for our Yuki Techie. That really is so helpful. Thank you.
Good.
For that.
Somebody told me to do it, so I didn't.
Very efficient.
Yeah.
It's terrific. And since Renee did a little plug, I'll do a little plug for Yuki Techie Haiku Society. We're having a Salamar retreat this year on Zoom. So those of you who might not have been able to come in the past, we're going to be Zooming, and it'll be the regular 4 days in November, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And it's going to be a wonderful time with lots of normal things that we do that we're going to figure out how to do through Zoom. Kukai and Patricia and Deanna and others, do you want to put in a few words for us here? Patricia, your mic's off.
Thank you. Emiko Miyashita is going to be our featured speaker, and she's going to run the Kukai. And we're setting up the time so that she can participate on all 4 days. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, so.
I'd also like to invite you all to the Seabeck Retreat, October 31 and November 1. We'll be having it 2 days instead of 4 days. It's free to register. We hope to get our schedule posted online next weekend. We have a few openings for possible readings, and we have presentations from Tom Painting, Brad Bennett, Tala Ramesh, Yvette Kaloji, and Nicholas Klazansky, and several others. some social activities. We're planning to have a kukai as well, and some other festivities, and some of the usual things. But we won't exactly be able to gather around the tables in the dining hall, unfortunately. But hopefully we can do that again next year. So if you're interested, go to the haikunorthwest.org site, and the registration page needs to be updated, but the registration does not open until September 1. But if you're interested in coming, we'd love to have you join us. And again, it's free.
So you have a physical meeting there? You said that?
No, by Zoom.
By Zoom, I see.
It will be by Zoom. A key detail, yes, just by Zoom.
Well, this has certainly been fun for me. So maybe now we should do two autumns a year. What do you think?
Well,
Or you could make it.
How are we going to improve, or how are we going to outdo ourselves? You know.
You could make it 4 autumns.
Why not 4 autumns? One for each season.
Two autumns and a spring.
Yeah, or well, you know, we sort of have a different kind of summer in San Francisco. There's sort of a foggy season. So, yeah.
Well, San Francisco is cold regardless of what time of year it is, except for like 1 or 2 days. I mean, at least anytime I've been there, I remember wearing a jacket in July.
But you know what? What we don't tell people is come in September or October, because September is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Nice weather in September, but we don't advertise that because, well, we want to sell sweaters and jackets. So.
So I don't know why I always come to HBSC then in the summer. I should change that.
Right.
Like,
September and October are our best months by far.
Yeah, yeah. October is sublime in San Francisco.
Gary, maybe you could do the 2 autumns in person once a year and then a Zoom at the 6 month, 6 months from there. What would that be? January? Yeah. Think of what a nice shot in the arm that would be in whole January to have a Zooming.
Well, you know, the whole thing is, up until now, well, nobody knew about Zoom. Probably didn't exist. I mean, I never heard of it till the beginning of this year. So, you know, if we tried to do this 2 years ago, this never would have happened. We could have never have done this. You know, when I started out, when I was president of HBNC in the beginning, 1989, 90, you know, everything I did was a manual typewriter, sending a letter in a sealed envelope with a stamp, and wait for one of my officers to reply to me with their letter. Okay, let's do that 2 autumns thing, and I'd write back, you know, where do we hold it? And they'd write back. You know, we didn't have fax machines or email or websites or none of this stuff. There weren't cell phones. You know, your phone was on your wall and had a cord to it. You know, it's amazing how far we came in such a short period of time to have all of these technologies. I've got 2 27-inch computers sitting at my desk and a cell phone. You know, it's like, my God, I hope they don't invent anything else because I'll have to buy it and stick it someplace, you know. But yeah, we've come a long ways, and now there's things we never could dream of doing that we are doing them because we can dream of doing. We can do them.
Well, just imagine what the whole COVID shutdown would have been like if we hadn't had email and texts and Zoom and internet. We would all have gone absolutely crazy.
But also think of this: if that hadn't shut down, we wouldn't have done this. There was no plan to do this. We would have met in San Francisco. We would have had our reading, and we wouldn't have dreamed. Even if this was here, we wouldn't have dreamed of doing this because, well, we didn't need to do it. We did this out of necessity. We had to do it, or not do anything at all this year. And we didn't really want to let the time go by. We wanted to mark our 2 autumns reading with something. So.
What's also really wonderful about all this technology is that we have people who wouldn't normally be at the Two Autumns. They wouldn't, yeah, they're, you know, it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mary was from Ireland, you know, so,
Mhm.
you know, that couldn't have happened. All of this
Yeah.
couldn't have happened. So, yeah, we were lucky technology came along when it did, and
yeah,
it's helped us communicate. So,
There's one thing I wanted to mention about the history of Two Autumns that changed over the years. Is that it used to be, and I don't remember how many years this lasted, but the title of each anthology was from a line by a classic haiku by a Japanese master,
right.
Like the Two Autumns one started off,
Right.
and Summer River, and some of the others. And it used to be that every anthology had a chosen poem by a Japanese master, and that produced the title. But somehow that either got forgotten or neglected or just,
I think what happened
I don't
is,
know what happened.
we'd have to go look at all the copies to see where the change happened, but I'm willing to bet you it was an editor that didn't know that history, and they probably produced it not knowing that was the trail of Two Autumns. Because I know a couple people.
It would have been.
A couple of people, when they were asked to do it, asked me to send them my copies because they can see what went before them. They weren't real familiar with the whole series. So, yeah, that was a problem. Also in the beginning, I don't know, we'd have to look at the other issues. We had the names in the front in the beginning. I don't know, that may have fell away right away. I think it was there for a few issues, wasn't it? So, I don't know. Also, I mean, and some of the, my original plan was these pairing of an editor and a producer, but you produced quite a few in a row, and Patrick Gallagher did quite a few in a row, and some people did both things, the producing and the editing. So, after a while, it just grew in its own way and went its own direction, and kind of became what it is now, whatever that is.
It can grow and change. I figured that the tradition of having a master's poem provide the title just didn't continue just because some editors didn't know. But I think it would have been pretty hard to sustain that.
It probably would have been.
Especially when usually the translations were new ones.
And also, actually, as a Japanese, I'm a little against it because you said masters, but it's always like a Basho Busan is, like old masters who has been dead for 300 years.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have like a title from one haiku written by some of the readers. I think that would be better for me, at least personally.
Well, I feel like we've sort of moved that direction.
It puts more emphasis on what we are doing for sure, instead of always deferring to Japan.
Yeah, because it's
on the
different.
other hand,
yeah.
On the other hand, as a group anthology, maybe it shouldn't quote from just one of the poets for the title. And yet, there's some beautiful titles that have come about because of that.
It's hard not to kind of do that, though, because not every poem makes a good title, and when you come across a good title, you almost have to take it, So, and the other thing is that as time went by, the book changed shapes. Instead of staying this one same format, some got longer, and some got square, and some got smaller. So that also changed over time as well. Evolution, I guess.
And something else I should mention is that if you hold it up again, Gary, the Two Autumns cover, that logo I chose from a clip art book.
I knew you did.
And just because it looked autumnal, and it ended up being the logo for HPNC in the Two Autumns Press.
Yeah.
And we're still using it today, and I think it's still a rather low resolution image, but when it's really tiny, it looks okay. But a project might be to make it higher resolution for larger use.
Yeah. Well, these are the traditions that started not knowing they were going to be traditions, right?
So it was originally just a photocopy that was put on, that was taped on or glued onto the layout, and it was duplicated that way.
Yeah.
And
it was really clip art.
At some point, somebody scanned it.
Yeah.
What?
Well, this was clip art, wasn't it? Clip art or something?
Yeah, yeah. It's from a clip art book.
Yeah. So
And it's
it's not like we had a custom logo made for ourselves. You know, at the
no,
time,
but it's
when we did the first one, even though the vision was to have an ongoing series, who knew? I mean, we didn't know how long it was all going to last, or if we'd keep doing it, or it would go on so long, or we'd even some of us would still be around. You know, most of the original 33, you know, what do you call it? Founders? Is that the right word? What's the word I want? You know, they're almost all gone. John Thompson came by my studio the other day and he said, "Are you and I the only original ones?" And I said, "No, I didn't think so. I think there was someone else around, but I think I even named who it was. I can't remember who it was now, but you know."
So look, you have the list of names in the chart first meeting in the first issue of Woodnotes.
Yeah.
You could look through it right now.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Well, I also don't know some people like Tom Armina. I don't know what happened to him. I imagine he's not around. He was older at the time. Jim Boyd, he kind of disappeared. He could be alive. I know Kathleen Berge's gone. I know Katie Carriaga, she was kind of young, so she could be in her 60s. So she's probably around, but you know, this is someone that dabbled in haiku and disappeared. Maybe she went back in the longer poetry and just disappeared. James Chessing, he's out there. He came to early meetings and then he either got shot or something, but you still see him publishing. Beverly Clark, I barely remember that person. Carol Colucci, I kind of vaguely remember her. Davina Kosh passed away. Margaret Malsky passed away. Jim Normington moved to Sacramento and just kind of disappeared, but he could be writing still. He was about my age. Jane Reichhold. Mary Rudge, I think, is still in Oakland, but she's old, so she could have passed away by now. Ken Shockey, I'm sure, is gone, but I can't prove it. Raymond Stovich, he might still be around, but I don't know that he is. Anna Takasina is another one. It was an early writer, but she just sort of stopped writing after the first meeting or two of the group. In fact, she was the one that dragged me into this. I remember distinctly. She's sitting off on this couch. I was leaning against the wall in Jerry Kilbride's apartment, and then when they were kind of fooling around, well, should we have a steering committee, or how should we do this? She goes, "Gary should lead it." And I'm thinking, why did she pick me? I mean, I wasn't looking to lead anything. It's like I felt embarrassed. It's like, why was I singled out? You know, I wasn't saying anything while all these people were running around saying what we should do and what we should do. I wasn't one of those. I was quietly hunkering in my corner, just not saying anything. And I got singled out. So I said, okay, I would join the committee. And then Mary Fields, Mary Fields really was Tom Tico's girlfriend. And Adele Foley, she just passed away not too long ago. And Jack Foley was really a radio personality, but it was Adele who really wrote haiku. I think Jack dabbled, but Adele wrote not really great haiku. And then Ruth Holter, I've always wondered about her because I thought she moved to Oregon and then she moved to the East Coast, but I see this name now and then, but she was older and I can't think it's still the same person. Robert Johnson was very elderly. I think he passed away. Jerry Kilbride, Carolyn Talmadge, John Thompson's around, Tom Tico, Vincent Trippi, Lakita Vance, moved back east, and she might still be around, but I lost track. Paula Williams and Jerry Wilson, he passed away some time ago. That's everyone on the list. So there's a few, still could be around. They just kind of dropped out and we don't know where they are. I mean, on the internet, you could probably find those people if you really were interested. I'm not, but you know. So.
Actually, Gary, because you're talking about history, I have a question. I got this Two Autumns anthology, the book from Jelly Kilbride, and inside there is the book like this. You know, it says like the haiku poet of Northern California, August 1, 1993, at Nichibeikai, Japan.
Yeah, that was because we were meeting there for a while. You muted yourself, Faye. You're muted.
Oh, sorry, I somehow my mute button touched the edge of the desk. But Blue Heron Production, who's that? I've never heard of it because it says Blue Heron Production.
Was that Chris Harold?
Is it? Oh, could
I'm
be.
Not sure. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
because he's in here. Okay. Oh, okay.
And you hold up the front. Hold up the front again. Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember the date, what the date
Michael,
was in particular.
What were you an officer then in '93? Was this the meeting? Was this the meeting where they were going to end HPNC? Do you remember that?
No, because it's 1993, so HPNC should have done because Two Autumns started 1990, right? So
I guess it was later.
yeah, so I think this is something, you know, that later. I don't know why